Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode, I believe, 19 of the Here I Am podcast. I am your host, Anjay, also known as A Dork Who Lifts. And with me here for the very first time, I'm actually recording an episode with somebody in the room. And I only have one microphone, so we're going to see how this all works out. But I tested it, and hopefully this sounds good enough. But yeah, I'm here with my lovely friend, Michelle Munar. Hey, how are you? I'm hanging in there. It's been a very busy, hectic week. Like I was telling you before, taking care of my brother's dogs all week, which I try to take them outside so they can go to the bathroom. They don't do it. As soon as I bring them inside, that's when they decide to go to the bathroom. And so I've been cleaning up a lot of like piss and shit all the time. Yeah. So it was a glorious time. So to give everyone a little bit of a background, I used to work with Michelle at Disneyland in attractions, and she was actually my trainer on Pirates of the Caribbean. And I believe I was your first solo trainee. Yeah. So and clearly, it all went downhill from there, right? It's not because I'm in the room or anything, right? So the first question I want to ask you is what did you think of me when you first met me?
I was like, oh,
Breaking my
I'm
freaking
freaking
thing.
shit.
You're fine.
I said, oh, this is gonna be fun. No, I really liked you.
Really?
Yeah. Weren't we supposed to have another girl
There was
on
another
this?
girl. She was there on day one.
And then she bailed, right?
And then she got sick and she kept trying to call, but that's because like day two, where it was like before like anybody showed up to the parks to
Yeah.
open and everything like
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I think that was that issue. And it ruined it because like that was the day we're really supposed to like walk behind, like show all this, go through all the scenes and everything.
Inside the attraction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Which I ended up doing for like other training purposes. So I guess it all worked out. But it limited because we're like sitting there for like 20 minutes going like, is she showing up?
It was horrible. But then it was just me and you.
I remember when I first met you, I was severely intimidated.
Everybody says that. I get that
Well,
a lot.
well, it was also like I learned Mansion as my first attraction,
Mhm.
which is not the most difficult attraction. There's a lot to it. And I remember like when I learned that, I was like really overwhelmed because I'm new to the company. I'm coming in and you're like, it's a whirlwind of
Mhm.
information just coming at you all at once. And then when I got Pirates as my second, I was like, oh, this is a big ride. This is a big one.
That's
And
how I
then
felt
and then
too.
everyone was like, oh, wait till you do like cat and mouse or
They
and
always
I
try
was
and
just
scare
like,
you to
yeah.
death.
And then I was like, oh shit. And like this is gonna be like all like new information. And I was just like, okay, I want to do a good job because like, the reason why I started working at Disneyland was a connection to my dad. Because my family was like really big into Disney and my grandma knew Walt. My grandparents knew Walt. My grandfather painted his house and also his studio.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so like how like at Walt's house he had like that little like train that you could technically ride on in his backyard. My
Mhm.
dad actually got to like do that shit. Yeah, so like I was like, oh, I'll work at Disneyland. This was like a few months after he died, and I was like, I hated life, and I was trying to figure out what I could do. And so like I'm in Disney, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to work my way up in the company as fast as I can, and just to be like, Dad will be proud of this. And so doing Pirates, I was like, fuck, this is like the last attraction Walt did saw to completion. There's so much history. I don't want to fuck up. Like it was just like intimidating. And then like I saw you and I was like, oh, this is a
She
motherfucking
looks like a bitch.
not a bitch. No, 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 not a bitch. Not a bitch. I would say a badass who doesn't take shit from
Okay,
anybody.
that's good for you.
Yeah. And then like, I would talk to like our friends and stuff. Um, and like I never like actually like met you or anything. And then they were going like, oh, you're gonna love her, but like just don't be don't be stupid and you'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like and you'll be fine. And yeah, that's what that was. That was my like first impression of you. And then I remember the exact moment where I knew that you liked me. Do you know what it is?
What, the bathroom?
Yeah. And I want to ask, did you bring my fucking Ford Keys cup?
No, they don't even give those out. We have to do it on the computer now. Yeah, we can't write them out anymore.
I'm okay. I'm gonna go back and work for Disney just so you can give me a Ford Keys card for that. For that. For those of you who don't know, when I worked there, they had these things called like Ford Keys card because they had, you know, it was what is it? Safety,
Courtesy and show.
courtesy, and show. Okay. And so we were on a break and I had to take a shit. And so I go to the bathroom and it's in like a like part of like the offices at the park. And so like multiple people use this bathroom. And then so I did a courtesy flush. And then I came out and I told her, I was like, hey, I should get a Four Keys card for courtesy because I did a courtesy flush.
Not
But she laughed and I went, okay, cool. I know she likes me now. Like I know we're good. Like we're all like this is gonna be fine.
and then the best training ever.
It was. It was a good time. It was a good time. And then I also remember what was it when we went to when we were because it's like the second or third night where you actually like you close and you learn the third night you learn tower and everything. And I remember Justin came up there, who was another person that we both know at Disney, and literally, I'm in a pirate shirt and it's like tight around my arms, and he just came up. And he's like, Andre, can you just like undo this flashlight for me? I'm just so I can't do it. Can you look so strong? This is like
awkward.
Yeah. And I was like, nice to meet you too, Justin. You know what I mean?
Guy that comes into Disney, especially attractions, they're always straight until proven gay. We're gay until proven
It's
straight.
gay until proven straight. Yeah. Yeah. And then if you are a straight, everyone thinks you're a man whore. Because like you're the only person there. And so like you're gonna get a lot of attention. And I discovered that people thought I was a man whore.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, like I dated one person there, and they always thought uh that I was like into other people, and I'm like, no, like this isn't it at all.
Every other guy there, gay, that works attractions.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how I gained a lot of my new best friends though, so it's fine by me.
Exactly.
So what made you start working at Disney?
Well, I grew up going to Disney too. Like me and my family would go there. My grandpa first started taking my mom, and so they would go. And then as I grew up, my mom would take me. We'd go with friends, whatever. We wound up being annual pass holders. Um, it never came into my mind that I wanted to work at Disney. But my mom always had loved it. And my mom worked at Disney. And I was still working at In-N-Out at the time when my mom went to Disney. And I wound up quitting In-N-Out because it was time. And then my mom was bugging me and bugging me. She was like, why don't you go to Disney, get a job? And I was like, I don't know if I want to work there. Like, I love going there, but I don't know if I want to work there. Like, where would I work? Well, I knew I didn't want to work in foods because obviously
You just left that. Yeah.
I didn't want to work in the stores because I would trip all those little annoying kids that are right there that are tearing the place up because their parents don't know how to watch them.
That does sound like something you would do.
I'll make it look like an accident.
Make a toy clip. What?
Um,
You make them trip into the plushies, so they'll be okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I didn't want to do custodial.
Yeah.
I told you I can't. I hate cleaning up my own throw up. I'm not doing it for other people.
Yeah.
So the only other option really that I thought about was like, oh, I could probably work attractions. I was like, that seems easy enough.
Little did you know.
Getting into, but it was probably the best decision that I ever made was deciding to go and work for Disney. And plus, my mom was working there, so
Carpool buddy.
and we worked, and I wound up getting placed in the same area as her. So
that's even doubly awesome.
She was already in the New Orleans Critter Country area, and then that's where I got placed for attractions. And Haunted Mansion was my first too.
It was also your 1st
Mm-hmm.
if I like literally, if I could go back and just work an attraction for me, it would be Mansion. I just loved it so much. And I also would also, yeah, a lot of people, I like Classic a lot, but Holiday was fun because of how busy it got. Um, but what I loved about Classic, well, it doesn't really matter. You can do it for both because it's considered theming. But if you are having like the worst day, you can show it and
Not get
people
in trouble for it.
and you won't get in
Oh yeah.
trouble for it. And people will be like, oh, they're just really in
Mhm.
character.
I used to love it 'cause, when I would have cramps,
Oh my God. Yeah.
I didn't have to smile. I didn't have to do anything, and you can't say nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just
It's,
being themed.
it makes it so that's what makes it so great. And also there's also just sometimes it's just fun to just stare at people and like let them get like feel uncomfortable. And you're like, hey, you're going into a place that's haunted. We're not supposed to be happy about like we're just going like welcome. And then all like the stupid puns that you can make. You know me, I'm fucking Mr. Pun. You're like, I am fully
I am
aware.
fully aware.
And yet here you are. You act like it's a bad thing, yet here you are. Um, what was I gonna say? So then you learn you were at the time where you learned four attractions, didn't
Yeah,
you?
I first. Winnie the Pooh was my second. Pirates was my third, and then Splash was my fourth. And
Yeah.
that's when Splash was where I ended before I left.
So yeah, now you switched over to security,
Mm-hmm.
which when we all worked there, we'd be like security, because
Mm-hmm.
that was just like our like if we dealt with like a real irate guest, we would just say that out loud and be like, all right, we're gonna go get some security right now, just because okay, we don't want to deal with this. What made you want to make the switch to security?
I didn't feel like I was really doing anything else in attractions.
Gotcha.
I felt like it was probably time. I didn't feel appreciated as a trainer or anything like that.
Mm,
Um, they treated me like a lead, but yet when I applied for lead, I wouldn't get it.
mm.
So I'm not ever one of those people that's gonna kiss butt to get something or like concede to what they want me to be. That's just not me.
You know, it's funny. You know how I got trainer so quickly was I would keep telling the managers, and I meant it. I meant every word of it. I would tell them, "Fucking only give me the job if you think I deserve it. Like I'm not gonna kiss your ass. I'm not gonna suck
Mhm.
up. I'm gonna bust my ass, and if I'm doing a good enough job, that's when I want you to give it to me." Like, I remember when I first got so like Maggie was like the at the time she was like hey, welcome to Disneyland, this is new for you,
Right.
what I'm here to help you transition in and answer any all your questions. First question I asked her is how do you move up in the company? She went what the fuck, because she was like that doesn't make sense. And again, like I told you before, it for me it was I need to get up so I can be sustainable for to make my dad proud, but also I knew my mom's was getting up there. Well, to me, I look back at it now. I'm like, she actually wasn't that old, dude. But I wanted to make sure she knew I was going to be okay, that type of thing. And so that like totally threw her off. And then I think she told all the other managers that. And then so like I kept getting randomly pulled out of shifts to go on walks with managers. And I was just always telling them the same thing. Like, oh, yeah, I want to work up in this company, but I'm gonna but I want it to only work up because I'm busting my ass to do
Right.
it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not and like that's why I think it's interesting where you said like I'm not gonna kiss anybody's ass. And I know those people. I know those people. Or there is also those people where, oh hey, trainer is opening up or lead is opening up. And then
And they
all of
post
a
pictures of the
sudden, well, yeah, but it was also all of a sudden they start working really hard because
time.
the
Mm.
applications opened up and you're like,
It's fake to me.
yeah, and
It's fake.
yeah. That was like the politicking that I didn't like. I was just like, just do your fucking job.
It's the way it is now. There's people who are where they should be and they shouldn't be.
Yeah, all for that whole $1.50.
Mhm.
Um, um, So, and does your mom work in stores?
Hmm.
I'm surprised I never met her
Me
during that
too.
time.
She first started working, she worked in New Orleans a lot
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I would always see her when I was at Pirates. She would be at Pieces of Eight, so I
Oh,
always see
okay.
her
Yeah, yeah,
and would
yeah.
always like talk and stuff like that. Or she would work in like Adventureland, but that's when her knees were like doing okay.
Okay.
But then once her knees started getting a little bit worse and it was a little bit harder for her to walk back and forth because New Orleans was a lot for her. That's when she went mostly to Critter Country
Oh,
and she
okay.
worked in Honey Spot and she was a hat writer at Briar Patch.
Oh, that's fun.
So she mostly stayed in Critter Country. It was a closer walk for her and
Hmm.
it was just easier for her
Okay.
to work there. So that's pretty much where she stayed.
Um, so did you grow up with just her, like a single mom?
Yeah. Well, I had my dad for the first 4 years, but he was never really like a dad.
Gotcha.
My mom, he wasn't a very good husband to my mom. My mom decided that she wanted to leave him when I was 4. And when she left, the day that she was leaving him, he told her, if you would have just lost 10 more pounds.
Oh my God.
So the only time he was ever really nice to her was when she was pregnant with me, obviously, because that's when you have to be.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, it's my mom left him when I was 4, and it's been me and her ever since.
Well, fucking that's badass. That's fucking badass. Like, and now I understand why you don't take shit from anybody because that's
Mhm.
where you got it from.
Oh yeah, and I've also been through a lot. I've had people do me dirty. I've had people walk on me. I've been too nice to people, and you build up that shell after a certain amount of time where you're just tired of taking it.
Yeah, I think uh because yeah, there's always like the like the people pleaser in
Hmm.
us that you want to
I used to be, I want everybody to like me, and now I'm like, I don't give a fuck if you like me. You either like me or you don't.
that's a great place to be in though. I mean,
Honestly.
but like because like you me knowing you as a person, like you have like a really great, wonderful heart and that shows. Um and yeah, I used to be the same way too, where I'm like, I really hope you like me. And I still struggle with it sometimes, but I'm learning to just kind of walk away from shit. Just like, and what it sounds like to me is that you just kind of learn your own self-respect. Like, this is like, what the fuck am I doing
It
this
took
for?
me a long time to get there, but I realized that I don't deserve to be treated that way, and I need to stop letting people treat me that way.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And finally, I'm just like, if you're gonna like me, you're gonna like me. If you're not, then you're not. I have the people in my life that are in there for a reason, and it's not gonna affect me either way if you don't want to be a part of it.
And it's also, it's like, that's like something that's almost completely out of your control. Like, you
Mhm.
can't make people like
No,
you
and you shouldn't
know?
have to.
No,
If they don't like
100%.
you, then that's obviously not people that you need.
Yeah, and I've definitely I've dealt with that. I've had like friendships fall out or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know what I did, or because like I'm a big like communicate with me. If I
Mhm.
did something to piss you off, fucking tell me. Because if I don't realize it and I understand like, well, you should know what you did or you should know blah 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 blah.
Why
I
no?
yeah, like to an like that's true to an extent. Like if you're
Mhm.
being like malicious, then yeah, that's the thing. But I've never been that kind of person.
Not
So if
that
I
I can
said,
be.
so, yeah, so if anyone's ever like said something to me, or if I said something and it pissed them off and they just stopped wanting to talk to me, I just go like, what the fuck happened? What did I do? Or whatever. And so I'm very more like, just tell me so I can learn or I can be better or I can understand like your point of view or where you're coming from type of thing. Um, but now I'm just like, okay, that's like, you know, I'm trying to learn to not stress out over things that are out of my control because like all it's doing is just making shit a bajillion
Times worse.
bajillion times worse. Um, one question I wanted to ask you because I've never asked this any of my friends who are in the LGBTQ community. What was coming out like? What was your coming out story like? If it's too personal, like we don't have
No,
to.
not at all. I don't know. It's really weird. So I had always liked guys, like when I was younger, stuff like that. But there was a point where I can't I want to say I was in maybe like middle school, maybe junior high, and there was like my friend neighbor that lived like in my mobile home park on the side.
Mhm.
Um, and I went, had a sleepover and stuff like that. And we don't know what we're doing, but like you're young, you experiment. And I never really thought anything about it.
Yeah.
And then it had happened with another one of my friends, and I don't know, like it's just weird. Like you never really think about it.
Yeah.
That you're like what you're doing is like what you're not supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Quotation
Like you don't
marks.
really think about it. But I think it was just pushed on me so much that like you're supposed to like boys, like that's how it's
Yeah.
supposed to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff like that. So I mean that's how I was. I was with boys throughout. And then when I got when I was in high school, I was a senior and I met one of my best friends who's still one of my best friends to this day. Um and I don't know how it happened or what happened, but we wound up like kissing one time and then we just kind of like kept on doing it and it kind of went further and further. But neither one of us were really sure what to think about it.
Yeah.
We were just kind of like, well, I don't know what this is. Like we never went out in public like holding hands, anything like that. It was just she was my best friend, we were best friends, and that was it.
Yeah.
As far as anybody else knew.
Yeah.
Um and then when I was 20, she's the one that took me to my first gay club because I never even knew that there was like a community out there, nothing. I'm like
Yeah.
young, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So she was the first one that took me to my first ever gay club. And I remember the first time that I walked in and I was like, okay, yeah, this is
This is
somewhere
it.
that
This is
I
it.
should
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
be.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like just the environment and then seeing like girls and I was like, oh yeah, I think
Like, she's hot. She's
I'm
hot.
for sure
She's hot.
attracted to females. Like
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
that's it. Cause we were still trying to figure it out. Cause like
Yeah.
I knew what me and her, like obviously we had that friendship bond too. But then when I was seeing other females, I was like, oh yeah, that's probably a possibility for sure. And then I wound up meeting uh some of my really good friends that I'm still friends with to this day, like over 20 something years. I met them
Yeah.
when I was 21 and I started going out with them to the
Yeah.
clubs and then just becoming way more comfortable with who I was and realizing like I probably have always liked females.
But you were raised a certain way.
Right.
Yeah. Or like this is what the
And
norm
like
was.
I really used to be like into guys, but then as soon as I started being with females, it switched.
Yeah.
Like, and now I was like, oh, this is probably who.
That's where you like first actually felt like yourself.
Correct.
Got you. So what was when you had the discussion with your mom?
I didn't.
You didn't.
So
Oh, okay.
I would go out to like the clubs and stuff, and my mom wouldn't know like what kind of clubs they were. Um, the reason my mom found out is because my best friend had written me a note,
Oh.
and my mom found the note,
Oh, okay.
and so she had confronted me about it, and I was like, well, fuck, I can't really get out of this. So I was like, yeah. And she was just like, it took her a long time to be okay with it
Hmm.
because obviously she was raised that way too, where it's that. But I think it wasn't even about me liking females. I think it was just about the fact of that she didn't want me to have to go through any pain of what people thought about me
Yeah.
or me having to go through like the hate or anything like that she
Yeah.
saw out there. So I
Yeah.
think that was even bigger for her.
She was more concerned about her baby
Right.
versus like,
But she would still keep trying to push like guys on me and stuff like that. And I finally told her, like, what you're doing is not helping me. I was like, if anything, it's pushing me away from you. I was like,
Yeah.
you don't have to agree with it. I said, but I need you to like understand, like, if I could change how I feel, I would, but I can't.
Yeah.
Like, I
Like
can't
it's not
help.
a choice.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't help. I can't help myself like with who I'm attracted to. I was like, and the more you push guys on me, I said, the more it's pushing me away.
Yeah.
Um, and it took a couple years, but I knew the first time when she was okay because I lived with one of my girlfriends and she would always call her my roommate. She never called her my girlfriend, it was always my roommate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I knew the minute that she was okay with it was when somebody at her job asked her if I had a boyfriend. And my mom said, no, but she has a girlfriend. And the minute those words came out of her mouth,
You do.
I knew she was okay with it.
Oh, okay.
Because she used to get mad when I bought rainbow stuff. And then after that moment, she started buying me rainbow stuff.
That's awesome.
She would come home and be like, oh, look at, I got you this. And I knew that she was okay with it. And in the end, she always loved me unconditionally.
Yeah.
And she just wanted me to be happy.
When you said that she was trying to push guys on you, the thought that popped into my head was she was like, "Well, look, there's this cute boy at Disney. There's this other cute
All
boy
the
at
time.
Disney." But then what we just talked about earlier of like, Mom, he's gay.
Yep. And that's one of the bigger things too, that in attractions, it was all gay guys
Yeah,
and straight girls. I transferred to security, it's all straight guys
that doesn't
and
actually.
lesbians.
Yeah, that doesn't really surprise me because there's probably like a whole like macho ness to it, and I'm
Mhm.
like, who gives like honestly, who gives a flying fuck? So how long were you working at? So you were still working at Disney when she was still trying to.
No, I was at In
You're
and Out.
oh, you're in and out at the time.
Hmm.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I got In and Out right out of high school.
Oh,
So
okay.
at 18.
Okay. So
And then
from 18 to 28. Okay, that's legit. Okay, that, yeah, no, because I was thinking, I was trying to think like, I was literally what I was picturing was like you being working at Pirates and her being like at Pieces of Eight, and there's like some cast member walking
no,
by, and she makes eye contact with you, like right there, there.
no. So when I worked at Disney, it's when she was already accepting of it. So
Okay.
instead it was, oh, I saw this cute girl. Or, oh, I saw this really cute lesbian couple and all this stuff. And I was just like, oh, wow, mom.
I love your mom was trying to be your wingman.
All the time. I'm just like, mom, stop it.
um, to kind of guide this, and I know this might be difficult. You recently lost your mom. How long ago was that?
September
September. So
last year.
yeah, so like what, 6 months? Something like that. I can't do math.
Me neither. I want to say it's about 6 months.
Oh yeah, just a little, maybe just a hair over 6 months. Um, do you mind asking what happened?
Well, I feel like it all started in 2020 when everything shut down
Yeah,
because she was working. It was good for her.
yeah.
She would go to work. It was good exercise. 2020 happened. She couldn't go anywhere. So I feel like she was stuck in the house and she was kind of like not getting her regular exercise that she would get every day.
Yeah.
She wound up catching COVID. She got over it though, and we thought like she was good, stuff like that. And then when we finally reopened, she went back to work. But she was having a harder time at work, like with her knees and stuff, because she had arthritis in both knees. Um, and then she wound up catching COVID a second time
Oof.
in 2022. I want to say she got it in around June. And then she got over that one, but she had started having like breathing problems, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
She said that she would feel like she couldn't catch her breath sometimes.
Hmm.
So I would be like, well, do you want to go to the doctors? And she's like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. My mom was very stubborn.
Yeah.
So no matter what I tried to do, I couldn't make her do something she didn't want to do.
Yeah.
So she wound up having to go out on medical because her knees were just not doing good. Um we were supposed to go and see what do you call those guys? The orthopedist people for her
Yeah.
knees.
Yeah.
Um to see like what options we could do. They wound up giving her steroid shots to hopefully make it work. Um and then I want to say like right after that, it was her birthday. We had her birthday and she couldn't really go anywhere, so we kind of just stayed at home and I spent it with her. And then the day it happened, she was fine. I went to work. I came home. I brought her dinner.
Hmm.
Um, we were talking, hanging out. I went into my room to take a shower and wind down and stuff. And then I want to say later on in the night, I was watching TV and I kind of heard a yell. I was like, is she yelling for me? Because I was like, is that her? And something in me, normally I would just be like, oh, I'll wait for her to yell again.
Yeah.
But something in me was like, no, go double check because like I swear she called you. So I go over there and she's in the restroom. And I'm like, what's wrong, mom? And she's like, I can't catch my breath. I don't like, I can't really breathe. And I was like, do you need me to call the ambulance? And she kind of just sat there and I was like, Mom, do you need me to call the ambulance? And she shook her head, yeah. So I call the ambulance and then I call one of my best friends, Steph, who lives literally like 3 minutes away.
Yeah.
And I was like, Steph, I need you now. So she got there before the ambulance did. And then the ambulance got there and then they took her. And I remember getting everything ready because I was like, we're leaving. Like I was in pajamas. I was like, I don't care. Um, we walked out to go talk to the ambulance people, like, where are you taking her? And they were already doing like CPR in the ambulance.
Yeah.
So I looked at Steph and I was like, I can't do this. And she was like, let's go. So we went. They wound up taking her to Kaiser first, but because of her, how bad she was doing, they wound up taking her to St. Joseph.
Because that was closer.
I found out later that I guess she like had a cardiac arrest, like I want to say 4 times in the ambulance on the way to the hospital,
Wow.
which is why they took her to St. Joseph. So we got there and we were waiting. They had us go upstairs and we talked to like the cardiologist, I guess is the heart person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he came out and he was like, no, her heart looks good and everything like that. So we were like, okay. They were like, we're taking her to intensive care. We're going to do more scans.
Yeah.
So we go up to where they have her. It's me and my adopted brother, Chris. Um, think.
Yeah, of course.
So we go up there. The doctor comes out, tells us, like, well, if we need to do like certain things, like we have to have your permission, like to help her to breathe if she needs to and stuff like that. So we're like, whatever you have to do, you know,
Yeah.
like whatever you have to do, I want you to do it.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and then they wind up saying, okay, we're gonna bring you back. So they brought us back, and I'm thinking like that we're gonna get to see her and stuff like that. Mind you, this whole time I'm thinking like, well, they're just gonna give her oxygen, she's gonna be okay, you know?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And so we get back there and we start talking to the doctor, and then I see like 8 or 9 doctors and nurses around her. And she winds up coding again while we're in there. So I turn around and I plug my ears because I'm like, I can't. And then the doctor is like, so at this point, I find out like she's probably coded like at least 7 to 8 times.
Okay.
He's like, at this point, we're like doing more harm than good. We don't know how she's gonna be if she comes back, you know?
Yeah.
So he's like, I just need to know like what you want me to do. Obviously, selfishly, I wanted to keep going,
Yeah.
but I couldn't do that to her.
That's yeah. Oh, of course.
So I said, I don't want you to do it anymore. And I basically had, like, I don't want you to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want her to hurt anymore.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, I came home and she was fine.
And
And
then all of a sudden it just changed.
within a span of 6 hours,
It's fucking
I lost her.
that, you know, it your story reminds me a lot of when I lost my dad. Um, so what happened with him was he you know, my dad was also very stubborn, right? Um, and he was very much it I kind of laugh about it now just for how like the shit that he was doing for how bad his health was. He worked in code enforcement for the city of Azusa, and he got exposed to like a lot of shit, and that ruined his immune system, right? So he would get a cold, and that shit would turn into like pneumonia, like in an instant, right? And you would think, well, if your immune system's that shitty, you would want to be like the epitome of health, right? Like you want to eat well, you want to exercise, you want to do all that stuff. He was a type 2 diabetic, an alcoholic, chain smoker. With not only did he have asthma, he also had like COPD, right? And no matter how much like I would like beg and plead with him, please start taking care of yourself. I want you around. He would just be like, yeah, okay. And then it wasn't until like after he passed where I learned about a lot of his demons. But so what happened was, so we were all very used to him, something happening. He goes to the hospital. He's there for like a couple days or a day, and then he comes home. So he has trouble breathing, and he just looks at us and goes, "Call 911, get an ambulance." And we're like, "Okay, what else is new?" You know what I mean? And this was like right after he was doing really good for like a couple weeks. Like he made me his personal trainer. Um, and he was eating good and all this stuff. And then like I had a tummy tuck surgery. So when I had that surgery, he was like, all right, go off the wagon a bit. So lo and behold, shockingly, we're like up like at 3 a.m. and he goes, call an ambulance. Okay. I was pissed. I was just pissed off at him. So we call an ambulance. He gets taken down to the hospital. They get all his vitals and everything normal. And they're like, all right, you can go home if you want. And he goes, yeah, I want to go home. Comes home. Um, and I'm supposed to go to like a doctor's appointment like later that day. I turn to my mom, I'm talking to her. We're both up. And I was like, you gotta talk to him. Like, you gotta try talking like some sense into him. And like she yells at me. She's pissed. She's like, what the fuck do you want me to do? The fuck do you want me to do? My dad hears us yelling, comes out, and he goes like, "What the fuck's going on? What are you guys yelling about?" And I just went, "You, like, fucking, like, I'm disappointed in you." And usually, my dad and I were like really good about having fights and arguments. Like, we could turn like the smallest thing to like a fucking giant fucking argument. And he goes, "Oh," and he turns back, goes to his room, gets changed, and he was going to go to he's going to go to the doctor's office to get some meds. And he ended up getting out of his car and collapsing. And they don't know how long he was there. He had a heart attack, essentially. And so they come, they start CPR, and they take him to the hospital. A firefighter comes to our house to get my mom. And this is like, I'm supposed to go to a doctor's appointment to check on my surgery, right? And my dumbass goes, Mom, go ahead, you go. I'll get a ride to my doctor's appointment. Thinking like, here we go, here we go fucking again. Like, surprise, surprise, dad's in the hospital. And then right when my doctor comes into the office to see me, my mom calls me and she's like, you need to get here right now. Your dad's going to die. I'm like, what the fuck? And so I turned to the doctor, and instead of me going like, I gotta leave, I went, fucking look at this, right? Just look at it and get me out of here. I gotta go. Like, apparently my dad's dying. And then so I go in, and the first person I see is my brother, and he goes, hey, doctor told me when they were like intubating him, it went in way too easy. They don't know how much, they don't know how long his brain went without oxygen. And so if like they revive him, he could be pretty badly brain damaged. And so he was like, we got to make a call. Like, do we tell him to stop and let him go? And then it was like what you were saying, didn't want him. I knew that he never would want to be that way. Like, I know we knew that he would never want to be that way. So that was like the call we had to make. Lo and behold, fast forward, several years later to when my mom died. She just stopped breathing on me. Like, I was giving her meds, and then all of a sudden she stopped breathing. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, shit. And I think you had nicer ambulance people than I did, because they were just kind of looking at me like, does she have a DNR? Are you sure you want to do? And I'm like, the fuck, bro? Like, I was just giving my mom CPR, and now you're asking me, are you sure you want to do this? Like, come on.
They came in, they asked me like what medication she was on and all that stuff, and then I could hear them and they're talking to her and stuff like that. While I was like talking to the other EMT, and I was just giving him information, and then I could hear him, and then when I went back to go and put like shoes on and throw on a sweater, when I came back they had already carried her out. So I was like, we have to go.
Yeah. When I found out that it happened, I don't know what happened. I just found out that happened. That's why I was like, I immediately reached out to you, and I was like, because like, you may not feel young, but you are young. And it's hard to find people. It's hard to, like, for me, it's been really difficult. I don't really know anybody who's lost a parent. And I lost my or I lost my dad at 25. I lost my mom at 30. And all of my friends, every single one of them was like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like, because they don't get it. They don't understand it. Or I don't know if you've gotten this, but I used to get this all the fucking time. Was, you should really stop being sad about it. They wouldn't want you to feel this way.
Really.
So you get that. You have gotten that from people. And my guess is their loved ones are still alive. Yeah. And I'm like, so like, I'm always like, you don't fucking get it. And I sit there and I go, it's gonna happen to you. Eventually. It's eventually gonna happen to you. And then that's when you will understand. But that was like, for me, I was like, you're hurting more than helping.
Right.
Telling me to get over it.
It's not.
It's what that's gonna do. No, actually, what it would do for me would be like, what the fuck's wrong with me? I don't know if that happened with you, but that's why whenever I I interact with somebody and I find out like, or like even with Rawl, like, not to call you out there, dude, but when he lost his mom, I just went like, what can I do? Like, just tell me. Like, I'm here to talk. I'm here to talk with you, and I'll give like any whatever kind of sense of advice that I can give. But the biggest thing I kept telling was like, hey, just be kind to yourself. Just be fucking kind to yourself, because this is not, and the harsh truth that I would give to people is like, this isn't something that goes away. But since this is so fresh, how have you been? I'm curious to how you're coping with it because I know what how I was dealing with it when I was going through it, fresh out of it, and
Well, the last 2 years have been hard because a lot of people don't know. Like before my mom ever happened, um, I had told you about like my relationship with my dad and stuff like that. Like he was never around. Like I wrote him a note, I want to say when I was like maybe 26, telling him because my whole life he would call me fat, call me ugly, like just put me down all the time. He just wasn't a very nice person, so I didn't really talk to him a whole lot. And then once I wrote him the letter telling him how he made me feel, he basically cut me out of his life for like 9 years, and I didn't see him until my grandma, his mom, passed away, and I went to her funeral because my half brother, who I have with my dad, was like, "We need to go. Like it's our grandma." So that was the first time I had seen my dad in 9 years, and we kind of just it was very hello. I gave him my number. We kind of kept in contact. I would text him on his birthday. He would text me on my birthday, stuff like that. But he wound up passing away in 2020.
oh, I did not know that yet.
So he passed away the day after my birthday in 2020.
Oh wow.
Um, and then he had no will done, nothing set up, anything like that. So basically, that falls on now me and my brother. However, my brother lives in Colorado. So basically, all of the burden falls on me. We found that he had all kinds of stuff happening. So while I'm trying to figure everything out, worrying about this, stressing about that, I had my mom to help me, like my mom was there
Yeah.
helping me go through everything. And then 2 years later,
Yeah. Yeah.
now I have to deal with this.
Yeah.
But now it's just
It's just you.
me,
Yeah.
like I'm by myself, you know? She was my best friend,
Yeah.
like literally been us, me and her all the time. And like people can lose like a parent, but nobody will ever really know unless they had like a relationship like me and my mom had. Like she was literally like my constant. She was always there. Like anybody I was ever with, my mom was always my number one.
Mm-hmm.
Like we lived together because I would help her with everything. Like, and I didn't want her to live by herself.
Yeah.
And basically, towards the end, like when she wasn't working and her knees were hurting, like I was basically doing everything for her.
Yeah.
Like I was taking care of her. Like I was basically going to work, coming home, and then taking care of her. And it's been really, really hard. Like I'm so blessed to have the people around me that I do that showed up and that have been there for me. But I still feel alone
Yeah.
all the time
Yep.
because she's not there. She's the one I went to when something was wrong to ask questions. She's the one I would go and tell her about like my day at work, talk shit with her about how work was.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes I feel like it's still not real.
Yeah.
And now I'm in the process of leaving where we lived together for 13 years.
Yeah.
So that in itself is hard because literally where I've spent
It's all
a
your
decade with her,
memories. Yeah.
all the memories are there, but it's hard being there without her because everywhere I look, like I see her and I want her to be there.
Yeah.
Still look in her room to this day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I look at where she used to sit on the couch
Yeah.
and it's just constant. And I know it's the best thing because I'm by myself all the time.
Yeah.
And it's probably not the healthiest for me to be by myself, but that's my safe space. You know,
I I
like
I totally get where you're coming
that's
from.
my comfort.
Yeah, no.
I have everything there. And I always used to tell her, like, Mom, I can't have anything happen to you because I don't want to be here like without you.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to do this life without you.
Yeah. Um, no, you're I get that feeling of feeling alone. I'm very, very similar. I mean, everything that I told you that's happened in this house, I'm still here. Like I'm still here. It was so this room that we're in, like maybe like a month after my mom died, I just tore it up. I painted the walls. I got rid of the carpet. I got rid of the furniture. Um, and it took me probably close to like 2 years just to go into her room and clear it out. And it's hard. It is. And I when you said that you're working on moving out of that place,
That
part
means
of
I
me,
have to put all her stuff.
you do have to go through all of her stuff, but I see it the way this is my perspective. I see that as a victory for you because that's you moving forward. I'm still here because this is my cheapest option.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm still
Which is why it's better too, because Chris. So I'll be paying like half of it, but I'll also be with somebody who's literally like my brother.
yeah, that's even yeah. Um and it's like I have my brother, right? I have my own brother, but the way that he coped and dealt with it is a lot different than me because he already has a wife, kids, family, um, whose kids look exactly like you did as a kid, which is
I know.
it
I
always
tell
it,
her all
it,
the
it
time.
always freaks me the fuck out
I tell
because
her
it's true. Like I'll see your old pictures and I'll go,
told
holy
you.
shit, yeah. But so like for him, he had something else to focus on. And he
Right.
was able to like rationalize like my parents' death. Like my dad, even though he and I butted heads like a motherfucker, and like I had a lot of anger towards him, I still had a shit ton of love for him. And he was always there. He was a good dad. He provided, he would, give give advice when you asked him for it, like, but he was just stubborn in so many other aspects of life. And when he retired, he really started diving into the bottle a lot more. And my brother was already out of the house, and so he never got physically violent, but he got verbally abusive, and that a lot of it turned on me. I got the brunt of it because he never wanted to do it. He never really wanted to yell at my mom or anything like that. And then so for me, it was always, "What the fuck are you doing with your life?" And go join the military, or do something, do something. Like I was like the disappointment, you know what I mean? And like my brother was like the saint because he has a really good job and now he has a wife and now he has a kid and
Mhm.
he has his own house and yada yada yada. Um, and I think when I had to quit and leave Disney to take care of my mom full time, like because it turned into like a 24/7 job. Yeah, I know that would be something that he would be like proud of. Um, but even it's been a few years since she's passed, and I'm still going like it's hard because and I know I'm sure for you, you had a routine with your mom, and that just disappears, and now you're like, now what? And I remember after she was gone, I still tried to keep a remnants of a routine. Like she died, I want to say like at 10 o'clock at night. My routine was to wake up at 4 every day and go to the gym by 5 in the morning so I can get back and do that. I showed up at the gym the next day at 5 in the morning. And the guy who I would work out with was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" And I was like, "I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. There's no right or wrong answer. Like, what am I supposed to do? Just stay in my house and fucking cry the whole time?" And it turns out that's really all I could do because if I left my house at any other time than when I usually did, I would have the most worst panic attacks. I didn't know that was what that was because I was like, I'm supposed to be home. I'm supposed to be taking care of her. I'm supposed to be doing all these things for her. And I remember the thing that I remembered the most and where the saying became the most true is the silence is deafening. And I'm sure you've dealt with that. Yeah, like you're just sitting there, there's nothing on, and you're like, why is it so loud? Like it is so loud. Like the silence is so loud right now. And um no, it's just something that I don't think people like fully understand. And like so there's this company that I go for like free therapy, right? And the class that's like kind of like really popular is about grief and loss. And it's just because like there's no like at changealgorithm.com for anybody watching or listening. But like because nobody like fucking it's hard to find like resources, you know what I mean? To know. And it's like unless like somebody actually like knows and understands what that experience is like. And this is why I'm so grateful for you for wanting to come and being able to come and talk to me about it because I know your story is going to be a lot of people are going to be able to relate to it. I'm literally watching you right now and going like, girl, and since I'm more years down the line in my grieving process, you're going to hear a lot of people go, it's going to get better. I am going to tell you that it is. It is going to get better. It's going to get better. But what's going to happen is that there's going to be longer time gaps between the hurt and the only thing the biggest advice that I can ever give you, and this is probably unsolicited, I'm sorry, is that when it comes up, don't beat yourself up about it. Embrace it because it's okay. It's allowed to happen. And um, I'm just, I'm so fucking proud of you. I am so, and I know you're making me cry, bitch. You're not supposed to, what the fuck? I'm just kidding. All these people have seen me cry plenty of times. Um, but one thing I am really jealous of that this is like I am jealous of all the photos that you have with her.
Which is so funny because I feel like
You don't have
I don't
enough.
have that.
I'll ask this because I'm sure you can relate. You always want the one more.
I don't have any voicemails from her.
I don't have that either. I had one voicemail from my dad that deleted, over years of technology and shit like that. My dad, whenever my dad used to call my phone, he'd be like, "Hello, Andy, this is your father." No shit, Sherlock. Like I know it's fucking you. There's this thing called caller ID, and then you're it's like yeah, like I know that, and like I know your voice. I've kind of lived with you my whole life. Like I know who you are. You don't need to announce it like that. But yeah, I lost that. Um, I have I have a couple videos with my mom of like me swimming with her, and then one when her condition was really bad, saying we're playing Yahtzee, but it was literally me doing everything. Like I was rolling, and then the only form of communication I have with her was just like yes or no. And I was like, "Can you say Yahtzee?" And then like she like forced it out, and I went, "All right, I have that." You know what I mean? But I have also like another video. You ever heard the game? It's called like Pie Face, where it's like this little
Oh, where you
hand.
have to click it
Click it.
and then
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
smacks
yeah.
you.
So I made like a real perverted joke to her during that because like
Surprise.
my mom was very much like a tomboy, and she loved like her and I would talk shit to each other and we just crack it. Like we would like I would walk into a room and be like, "Mom, shut the fuck up. She's not
Stop
doing
listening.
anything." She wasn't even doing anything. And she would just start laughing her ass off. Or like, and she would do the same thing. She'd just walk in, look at me like, just shut up. Or I would I would just like, make fun of her or whatever, but like it was always said with love. We were just like talking shit. Um, I don't have any of those kinds of videos, but so the video I have of the pie face was like, I was like, Mom, your turn. Um, hopefully you don't get this in your eye, but you used to getting white stuff in your eye, right? And she was just like but she couldn't really talk anymore, but I would get her to chuckle. You know what I mean? Or like, the way that her brain started to get towards the end, it really became more childlike. So I can be like, Mom, penis, and she just start dying laughing. You know what I mean? And but I was like, okay, that's my goal. Like, I'll say any of like the stupidest shit just to get you to laugh. Which, no, you're fine. How dare you? How dare you? In my house,
Running all over the
well, you should catch it.
place. I knew you were gonna
Got
say
it.
that.
I got it. Um, but no, that was like the stupid, shit that we would do. But like one of the things that my family never fucking did was take pictures. We would never take pictures.
Tapes that my grandpa had of me when I was little. Um, and I never really took like a whole lot of pictures with my mom, but I started to, like when we would go to Disney and stuff like that. Which is why I take so many pictures with my friends and stuff like that, because sometimes like that's literally all you're gonna have.
You never know. And I always keep telling myself, like, man, you really need to start doing that. You really need to start doing that. Cause like, I don't really have any pictures of me in my 20s. Granted, I lost most of my 20s because my dad died. And then taking care of my mom, lost that too. Um, and part of me would feel like selfish if I'm taking a picture. Like, hey, let's stop and take a picture. Like I felt like, oh, no one wants to do that. Let's just go. But yeah, it's always that you want the one more picture, the one more hug, the one more like sit and talk.
I think that's the hardest part for me, is the fact of how it all happened. I didn't get to say bye. I didn't get to tell her I loved her. She didn't get to tell me. Like I knew she did, but
No, I get that. You don't get the. I mean, my last words to my father of him awake was, "I'm disappointed in you." It's the last thing I ever said to him. Now, when he's on the table, his heart's still going, but he's like gonna die soon. Of course I told him I loved him, but like you can't say it back. And with my mom, there was she couldn't talk. I could always see it in her eyes. You know what I mean? And I want to say I know for your mom, like, bitch, you know she loved you. And I know you want to say it one more time and like have her like physically be there and see it. And I'm sure there's like a longing for that, like an ache, like I just want that. But it, she knew. Look what you did for her. You took care of her. She doesn't take that. No one takes that shit lightly. And it's not. No, it's really not. And and especially when like you're young and you're still doing life and you still want to learn from them, you know what I mean? Another one of my biggest regrets was like I never asked enough questions about their life, what it was like for them growing up. Like I knew my dad did. He was like in a Polish dancing group, and they performed at Disneyland all the time. And when they did, It's a Small World, when they built that attraction, he was like in the Polish representation of like dumping water into the flume. And one of the girls from there almost knocked Walt in. Like she accidentally bumped into him and his ass almost flew in there. And I was like, that's all the money. Don't do that. Like, no, that's the boss. Um, and then the only other things I knew is like my dad played tennis in high school and then he joined the Air Force. And then he met my mom at a house party where he tripped over her drunk ass, and it was like love at first drunken stumble. But then there was like 3 months later they were engaged, and then like later that year they got married. I don't really know. I don't really know anything else. And like my mom, I just knew she was a tomboy. She wrote for the school newspaper. She went to school to be a journalist. She got her bachelor's in like political science, and then she got her master's in journalism, and then she wrote for a small paper in Indiana, which is again where she met my dad, and that was it. Then she then they upped and moved to California because Indiana was too fucking cold, which I get. uh, yeah. And then she worked at Vaughn's apparently as a cashier, became a teacher, and then that's it. Like that's all I know. Like I don't. It's like minute details. You know what I mean? Like, mom, tell me a crazy story about this, or dad, tell me a crazy story about that. You know what I mean? Like it's just so very little information. Like that was the same with like my grandparents. Like my a grandfather, I didn't really know because he was like by the time I got to meet him and everything, he was pretty stroked out. So like that, but like my grandmother, I'm pissed off at myself that I didn't like. She was part of like a fucking, she was in Belgium. She escaped Poland right before the Germans invaded. She moved to Belgium, where then she was part of the underground to help people from France escape into Belgium. And I'm like, how am I not asking questions about this? How am I not? How did I not go? How did I not realize how badass of a fucking thing that was? I was like, oh, it's cool. But I didn't get it. Like it didn't like I was too young. Like it didn't
Yeah.
like click in. I was still like a teenager going like, whatever, like that's nice. So that's a lesson for everybody. If your parents are still around, fucking ask them about their life and really just get to know them as humans. Um, yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with this. I'm just rambling on. Um, if you were to, since you're like, this is so still raw for you, if you were to give somebody advice, what would it be?
Just about.
If it just happened for them, or I don't know, like grief is such like a weird journey, and just, I know you're talking about for your experience how kind of lost you're kind of feeling, right? Is that what it is? Um,
Because I've never had to do my life without her.
yeah,
So I feel like, what do I do? Like, with decisions that I make and stuff like that, that's stuff that I would go to her for.
yeah.
Like, sometimes I feel like, what the hell am I even doing? Like, how am I going to do this? Because I want her to be here. And to be honest, she doesn't know it, but my goddaughter is literally one of the biggest reasons why I'm still here.
Do you have any idea? This is gonna sound really selfish of me, but how happy it makes me to see how excited she is to see you every fucking time.
I know.
Every fucking time. It's like with my nieces whenever they see me,
Uh-huh.
but it's like to like an nth degree. Like it's insane and it's amazing.
That little girl, like, that's my, her mom says it all the time. Like, I feel like that's my twin flame. Like, she's just like me. Like, the love that she gives me is like so unconditional. It reminds me of like the love that my mom had for me. But that little girl saved me. Like, because I can't picture not being around for her or her brother. No,
Yeah, yeah.
like, she would be lost.
This is gonna sound silly in comparison, but that dog right there that's sleeping, I lost one of them. He's why I'm still here. He's why I'm still here. I know I have my nieces and everything like that, but
But he's been there through everything.
he's been there through everything. And when my dog Lily passed, I was just like, what the fuck? But I know when she passed, it wasn't as hard. Like some people were like, oh, it's losing a dog is like losing a human. No, it's not. It hurts. Don't get me wrong, it hurts. But I was like, nothing compares to like when I lost my mom and when I lost my dad. There's no pain that's ever doing that. And I wish, like I said, like for me, my level of feeling alone is no one understands it. Like my brother, he was able to rationalize it, and that that's how he copes with it. Okay, he's like, well, dad never took care of himself, so of course that was gonna happen. And then with my mom, it was like, well, she was really sick. That wasn't really mom anymore. But like he was away. He wasn't in it like I was.
Right.
You know what I
Because you
mean?
actually take care of her.
100%.
So it's
And
different.
100%. And then like, with my dad, it was like I was always seeking his approval. And with my mom, she became my daughter, essentially. Like a daughter. Like, changing diapers, bathing, feeding, changing diapers, giving meds, cooking, all that shit. Everything. Every fucking thing. And that's why even like now I struggle to like upkeep the house. One, I don't have time. Well, I mean, you can always make time, but I'm always so exhausted. And I'm always just like, and on the other part is like, am I trying to impress? Like, come on now. Like, I'm like, I can deal with this later. I can deal with this later. And I get overwhelmed with a bunch of other shit. And I think that's been the biggest battle for me. And I'm going to go on an assumption that it was with you of just getting overwhelmed a lot.
All the time. My
Yeah.
anxiety is insane now.
When especially, yeah. And I would say, especially with your experience, I don't think people understand like how traumatic of an event that really is.
It really is.
And you can develop, and like when people hear like PTSD, a lot of the times it's like related to like military, but no, it's like it comes from like a
Trauma.
traumatic event. Like, and you essentially like watch your mom die in front of you.
And
And
I had to make the decision.
you had to make the call to let her go. And that makes it even harder. Like I know it like so with my grandparents, and this is why I think this affected my dad so much. And I'm sorry, I know I've shared this story a few times, but I don't know if you've heard it. Okay, so my grandfather had a lot of strokes, and so my grandmother told my dad eventually because he was in a lot of pain and he was half paralyzed, and so my grandmother told my dad, tell the doctor to pump him full of morphine until he goes, like make him comfortable, like essentially end it. And I could never fathom making that call. And then he had to do it for my grandmother too, because she ended up having a bunch of strokes and he had to do the same thing. All of this was within like a week of his birthday. So years apart, sure, but right around the same month period. And
Right.
she was buried, like put in the ground on my dad's birthday. And I remember that day specifically because I was a pass holder at Disney at the time. And I went, Dad, let's go to Disneyland for your birthday. Let's get you out of the house. Let's have fun. Let's go to Disneyland on your birthday. And he goes, okay. And he knew, if I knew that she was getting buried, he knew that she was getting put in the ground that day. And but I didn't know that he had to make those decisions until after he died. And so for me, I went, oh fuck. This is why you dove into the bottle. He didn't have work to distract him anymore. And he sure as shit didn't talk about mental health and how he was feeling. He was a man's man. You're
Yeah.
not supposed to talk about that shit. Men aren't supposed to talk about their feelings. They're supposed to quit being a little bitch and fucking deal with it. Um, so so when I learned that, I gained so much more empathy for him. And I just went like any kind of like anger that I had kind of dissipate. I forgave him. Not that what he was doing to me was okay, because it's not. And I just became understanding. It made sense to me. You know what I mean? Like I learned, oh,
Why you did stuff that you did.
this is why you're an asshole. This is why you drank from like as soon as you woke up till you passed out in the afternoon. And then when you woke up in the afternoon, he would like wake up. Oh, I guess I'll make dinner. And he's a bomb ass cook. That's another thing I wish I'd learned was like his fucking recipes. And then he'd go back to drinking until he passed out again. And he like almost never slept. And again, his health was shit. But I went, oh, okay. Um, and he was like the rock. My mom was my best friend. So I totally understand. Like before my mom died, or she even got sick, I was able to bullshit with like she's the person I always came to. Like, hey mom, like, what's up? What's going on? We bonded over like sports and shit. And then it's just like when all that disappears and all that gets taken away, instantly taken away. You're like, oh fuck, I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready for this. And now you're in this, we get left in this moment of like, what now? And again, like the biggest thing I can tell anybody is just be fucking patient with yourself and be kind to yourself. And you have this, you have like, it's another thing I'm really jealous of you about. You have such this like crazy, beautiful support system, and they just show up for you. And do you reach out? Are you good about reaching out to
No,
people? Okay, I'm
not
horrible
at
about
all.
it. I'm horrible about it. And so
Um,
I'm
like
really
I'm terrible.
same.
I always keep
Same.
everything to myself. I just feel like I don't want to be a burden on other people.
100% the
You
same.
know,
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. And no matter how many times people go like, just fucking tell me,
it's
because
not that easy.
it's not that easy. And it's also, I don't, do you ever get caught in the thought of nobody cares about me?
Yep.
Because like no one knows how I'm feeling.
Yep.
Yeah, the thing that I get stuck with this, and this might hurt your brain a little bit. Because we had this, you literally said this to me earlier. How can how can they react if they don't know?
I know.
You know what I mean? It's just like you're like caught in like this like catch 22. You're like, I can't be that mad at them because they don't know, but I can't tell them because I don't want to be a burden. But even though they told me fucking reach out, I'm not gonna be a burden or whatever. Um, but you know I love you, right? You know I'm here for you. And I'm really uh I keep going on like these ADD fucking tangents. But I, I'm just really grateful for you. And you were always, you always showed me so much love and kindness, and I always want to return that back to you tenfold. I remember last time we saw each other, so I'll end it with this lovely story, everybody. It was when Disney was just opening back up for with COVID restrictions. Everybody had to wear a mask. Everybody had to everybody had to wear a mask. You had to keep social distancing. Like even though like the parks were like at like 2% capacity, lines for rides were still like ridiculously long because they were just figuring it out. Yeah. Well, yeah. And then but I remember I went up to you and I told you I was freaking out. I was having an anxiety attack because that was the first time of me really going back to the parks since my mom died. Or from it, since I quit the company. Really, I maybe went back like once or twice, but I was barely there. Like it was like in and out. Like here, hi, okay, bye. This is like my first like full experience back at the parks. And I remember I saw you and it was instantly calming. And even though you weren't supposed to, you gave me all the fucking hugs. Yeah, it's true. That is you. Um, and I can never thank you enough for that. I don't think you realize that that's what you did for me that day. Yeah. It, it was it was really it was really surreal for me because like I have so many memories of that place and at that place. And I remember, I have memories with my mom at that place. Like the first time we took my niece to Disneyland, we brought my mom. My mom's health wasn't like the best, you know what I mean? But it was like a great, and I have a few pictures from that day, which I'm gonna cherish for fucking ever. Um, but yes, when I'm going back, I'm having like this fucking like as soon as I go to get to the fucking parking structure, I'm freaking out. I'm freaking the fuck out because all these memories came back. Everything came back. And I just want to say thank you for being that calming force for me. And again, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate you. I love you too. I love you so very much. Um, we got to hang out more outside of this.
Yes.
We got to like find times to actually like do
Yeah.
shit. To everyone here, thank you for watching or listening. If you know anybody who's like really struggling with grief, you know that we're not alone, and you can hopefully share this with them. And as always, please remember to be kind to yourselves. I don't want to do the whole like subscribe thing, but do what you want. But if there's anything I can say is just always be kind to yourselves, and as always, be good. Bye.